Okay, so starting. Hi again, everyone, and welcome to today's new features webinar, where we'll be showing you all of the new and exciting features that we've released this past month. My name is Omer, and I'm a customer experience manager here at monday.com. I'd also like to introduce my colleagues Omri and Avioz, who will be helping to answer your questions throughout today's demo. We're going to get started in just a moment since I see that people are still joining, but I think it's enough now and we can start and continue. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen and hear me, but if that's not the case at any point, please let us know by writing in the chat box so we can get it resolved as quickly as possible. Today's session will be made up of two parts. First, we'll take a look at our new features in action, and then we'll move into a live Q&A to answer your questions. Throughout the demo, please be sure to add your questions in the dedicated Q&A box at the bottom of the screen instead of the general chat. We will try to get to as many questions as we can. That said, there are a lot of us today, so if we don't get to your specific question, please feel free to check out our user community at community.monday.com, as it's likely someone has already answered and asked the question. If not, you can always reach out to us at support@monday.com 24/7, and we'd be more than happy to answer any and all of your questions. Finally, you'll be emailed a recording of today's session within 3 business days. So let's go ahead and take a look at today's agenda. So we're going to go over new account organization feature, column updates, new conditional coloring feature, custom automation builder editions, Kanban improvements, mirror columns supporting widgets, my work updates, latest mobile features, app of the month, and Q&A. So quite a lot to cover. With that, let's go ahead and jump over to my monday.com account. Okay, so while a lot of the features you'll see today have a wide variety of applications, we have decided to use the example of planning a company offsite event as our use case to demonstrate the features. I went ahead and downloaded the event management template from our template store, which actually is a folder that includes a couple of boards, a dashboard, and a work doc to plan our event. This provides a nice foundation to get started and is fully customizable. You can find it by going to your template center and then searching for event management. So if we go over here, instead of adding a new board, choose from templates, and then you can search for event. You know what, let's just go to operations, and here we can find the event management, see a preview with all the boards, and that's what's included in it. And of course, if you were not aware, we have lots of other boards available in our template center, which is a great way to get started with the most popular workflows. With this template folder, teams can manage and plan all your events in one organized space, including assigning tasks, tracking statuses, and overseeing deadlines to ensure smooth collaboration. So we can now see the board and the folder. Okay, so all of the features we'll be showing today can be used with any workflow. So don't fret if your work has nothing to do with campaigns or marketing. This is simply a good way to show the features in context. So to get started, we're going to take a look at a new account organization feature that will help you manage complex workflows under a single workspace, thanks to the introduction of subfolders. Before I demo our new account organization feature in action, I want to briefly share an overview of how organization works on your monday.com account. So first, let's talk about workspaces, which you can see from this dropdown. Workspaces allow you to have different areas for each of your teams while allowing everyone to work in one account. This means that each team can concentrate on what's relevant to them while still enabling collaboration. You can even choose to have your workspaces represent clients or projects if that makes more sense for the way you work. So let's go back into my new features February workspace. So let's just say I'm going to this workspace. You see here a lot of different folders, but I actually want to go to my February 22 features 2022 Features webinar, and here is the workspace and the specific board. Okay, so inside of my workspace in the left pane, you'll see arrows that we can click to expand or collapse to help keep our boards organized, just like this. These are called folders, and they are another means to adding a layer of organization in your account. You can create a new folder by clicking add and then new folder just from here, just like creating a board from scratch or from the templates, you can create a new folder. If you want to further organize your work, you can even add an extra layer of folders inside another one. To add a folder within a folder, simply hover over the folder which you'd like to, the new folder to be placed in, and select on the three-dot menu. From there, press Create Folder in Folder, give it a name, and you're all set. So now let's expand our folder over here, the three-dot menu, and we can create a new folder, and let's call it Sub-Folder. Here we go. Now I can move one of my boards to the subfolder. And if we collapse it, we see it's all under this parent folder, if you will. Okay. So we can also favorite a board by selecting the star icon. This is great for those boards that you need to revisit often. Favorited boards will appear in the list at the top of your workspace. So let's just star the board, make it a favorite. Then if we go to our workspaces and favorites, we will find it here. So now we have the ability to add a folder specifically within the dedicated favorites section of our workspace. This is especially helpful for those of you whose account may have an increasing number of workspaces, boards, work docs, and dashboards that require easy access. As an example, you can see that I already have several favorited boards in this workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and tidy it up by adding a couple of folders. One is personal and one for work projects. So let's just go ahead and add a new folder. Let's call this personal. And then I can drag the personal stuff. You see, I have a board with movie recommendations. And now, as I've mentioned, you can add folders to your favorite section as well. Okay, next let's jump back to my event planning board to take a look at some new board features in action. Okay, so we are using this board to help plan our entire company offsite event, from brainstorming kickoff ideas to planning event sessions to booking vendors and more. The first new board feature I'd like to show you is related to our timeline column just here. For those of you who are just getting started with the platform, the timeline column is similar to our date column, but it allows us to assign a specific date range to each of our tasks. So let's just create a task over here. And on the date column, here we go. On the date column, I'm assigning just one date, and that would be the deadline. But I can also set a time range from the 7th till the 23rd as an example. Okay, so you'll see that it will color or fill in the timeline based on where we are in the project. Now, we have updated some UI changes to the duration of timelines that have crossed over to another year. This will allow users who plan long-term to quickly understand which items are relevant for their use case and current planning. So with the timeline column, we can also enable a feature called deadline mode, which helps us understand if something is running behind schedule at a glance. And when hovering over an item, you can see if it was completed on time or if it's overdue. So as an example, let's just decide that our timeline is actually until 2023. And now with the new UI changes, I can see this. In addition, I can go to settings, set as deadline, and connect the columns together. Okay, so if you hover over the duration of the task, you can see how many days there are in this range, how many days are left, and if your task is done on time. Now, our team can see when they should be working on each stage of the project. So if we're hovering over here, just like this, we see that we have This one done 1 day after deadline, 5 days overdue. And here we have 385 days left. This feature can also be enabled on the date column, which you can see I've done here. This brings us to our next update, for which deadline columns now reflect the late completion of tasks. This means that tasks that are completed within the deadline now have a check mark next to the deadline column, and tasks that are completed after the deadline past have an exclamation mark, next to them. And previously, when you enable deadline mode, it was completed a couple of days after the deadline, it would show as a green check. Now, if it's actually not completed on the exact due date, a green exclamation point will appear, and if you hover over it, it will indicate exactly how many days it was completed after the deadline. So if we hover over here, we can see exactly how many days it was done after time or before time, etc. And this change is thanks to feedback we got from clients, which is you. And before the change, all completed tasks had a check mark next to the deadline column. So there was no visual indication whether the task was done on time or overdue, only in the hover tooltip. And this is the time to say that your feedback really matters. We take it into consideration in terms of what features we develop and what to prioritize. Okay, next, I'd like to share a small but mighty update in our numbers column. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the numbers column can be used to display any kind of numerical data. In our case, it will be used to display budget allocated to each of our tasks. And below each group, you'll see group summaries. Underneath the numbers column, you can actually assign unit and function by clicking here. So if we go to the numbers column, to one of them, I can click over here and I can decide on the function, whether it's a sum, average, etc., and the unit. I can also decide it's hours, actually. And we'll see that changing here, but that's not the case for us. Now, there is a shorter way to assign a unit by simply clicking into a numbers cell and adding the unit next to the numerical data. So instead of going here, then adding the sign over here, I can simply click into one of the cells and add the sign, and it will automatically add it to all of them. To note, we currently support one of 4 constant units in the numeric column settings, which is $, euro, pound, and percent. Custom units are to come. Okay, next, I would like to show you a new conditional coloring feature. To note, the conditional coloring feature is available on the standard plan and above. For those of you who are not familiar with conditional coloring, you can easily apply coloring to cells that meet your defined criteria to visually emphasize or differentiate among the data on your board. You will find the conditional coloring tool at the top of your board, just here. Here we go. From this menu, you can then begin to choose your conditions as well as your colors. Just like with groups and status labels, you can choose the color for your conditional coloring. And there are a lot of colors to choose from. Choosing your conditions is simple. First, choose the column, then choose the condition, then enter the value. The value can be a text or a number. Press enter and your formatting will apply. So the only supported columns at this time are the item name, date, person, numbers, text, long text, and the timeline column. So basically the way to do this would be to have, let's just say our timeline is done overdue. And now we see the color. We can of course also choose which color we want it to be. So we want items that are done overdue for our calculations. We can of course save this as a new view so we don't have to filter each and every single time. And the new feature release regarding conditional coloring is that now you can highlight an entire row if a certain column meets a condition. This allows more flexibility in conditional coloring and helps users to highlight items, especially if a column is not always visible. So instead of highlighting just a specific cell, I can choose to highlight an entire row so it appears more clearly for my needs. And as mentioned, I can save this as a new view can call it whatever I want. And then I have the main table view for everyone, but for me, for my purposes, I have my saved view with the filters. I can, of course, sort it, filter it with additional filters, which are things that many of you probably already know. So let's go back to our main table. Next, I'd like to take a look at a couple of newly supported automation fields available in our automation center, which can be accessed just here. For those of you who are not familiar, automations allow you to leave repetitive manual actions to us, meaning you have more time to focus on the important stuff. We like to refer our automations as recipes, which each consist of a trigger, like the changing of a status, which causes an action, like the notification of someone on the team. These are just examples. We have multiple triggers, multiple actions. You are more than welcome to play around with the system. That's the best way to learn. So in addition to the pre-made automation recipes, which you can see here, we have here also the ability to build your own custom automations block by block, which is personally my favorite way to create automations. When building your own custom automation, you get to decide which trigger, for example, when my campaign status changes to done, then move item to my completed group and notify someone. So just as an example, I want when I have a done item to automatically move to the completed group so I don't have to manually have to do this. So I go to the create custom automations, when status changes to done, move item to group. And I will create the automation and it will happen automatically. Okay, so when building, so we also have the option to automate with drop-down conditions, which I will show on another board. So let's just go to the other board. Let's go back to my workspace. Here we go. And to the board, I move to the subfolder. And here you can see I have the drop-down column with various options. So up until now, our automations were pretty limited when it came to the drop-down column, but not anymore. So you can now build your own automation with 3 types of conditions on the drop-down column. So I'm going to go back to the automation center and the custom automation recipe, and let's go in with when button clicked. And I already have a button column on the board. So when button clicked and drop down meets condition. And we have 3 different options for this. So that would be contains all these labels. And it does not matter how many drop-down labels are selected for an item, but the item must also contain all of the configured labels. The second option would be contains one of these labels. Similar to the above, the item may have additional drop-down labels, but it must contain at least one of the configured labels. And the third and last option would be contains only these labels. The dropdown should have all the configured labels and only them without any additional label. So we have the dropdown column here in my board, it's called preferences. Let's just go with contains all, kosher, vegan, and not allergy. Then do this. And let's just say that when button clicked and only if these happen, send an email to someone. And that's just an example. You can see we have many, many different action options with our automations. Okay, so this month, we also added a new automation trigger where when item name changes, it will then set off an action such as changing a status to something. So over here, you can see name. So when item name changes, then decide what you want the automation to do for you. Okay, moving on, I'd like to share some Kanban view improvements. So let's just go back to the event planning board and to our Kanban view. For, if you don't know about our board view, they allow you to visualize all of the data in your board in a number of different ways, which is great for customizing your workflow. For those who are not familiar with this feature, the Kanban view is based on the project management methodology of the same name. It allows you to see tasks in the board by status and works best when tasks go through multiple statuses or phases until they reach completion. So let's just refresh. And here we go. The Kanban view isn't a new feature on monday.com, but we have made some improvements. So first off, we now have the ability to rename the item or task directly from the Kanban card, just here. So instead of DJ, I can rename it here, or even directly from here. So that's something that was not enabled before. Our team also made a few changes in the Kanban settings view to a cleaner and unified look with several theme adaptations. So that's what we can see on the right. Okay, moving away from the board views, I want to jump into my dashboard here to show you some widget updates. So moving on to the dashboards. Dashboards are made of widgets, and a couple of our most popular widgets are the numbers widget. Let's just refresh again. Here we go. Okay, I refreshed too early. Okay, so the numbers widget displays a total cost for all your projects in case you're managing budgets across multiple boards, and the battery widget just to the right, which allows you to track the overall progress of your team and the projects being worked on. Now we've added the ability to display data from mirror columns in both of these widgets, and I will show you exactly how this works in just a moment. So let's just go to the events planning board to explain this. And back to our main table view. Now let's scroll to the right where we see the connect boards column and the mirror column. For anyone who is unfamiliar with mirror columns, they allow you to reflect data from one board on another board. In order to add the mirror column, you'll need to have a connect boards column. The connect boards column will link the items in your boards together, while the mirror column will reflect information from one or more boards to another, creating more visibility. By connecting your boards and mirroring information from one or more boards to another, you can easily make changes to any one board, and the changes will be reflected in other boards as well. So basically what this means is that I have the connect boards column over here, and it's connected to the events board over here. These items actually exist on this board, and the status here is a status from the item called Steph. If I change the status over here, it will be changed where the item actually exists on event RSVP board, and vice versa. If I go to the board and I make the change here, we will see it on this board as well. So as I mentioned, we now have the ability to display data from mirror columns in both the number and the battery widgets over here, enabling us to get the information and analysis we want just where we want it. Okay, so now I'd like to shift our attention to our feature called My Work, which is a one-stop shop for you to view and manage everything related to you across your entire account. It's a great place to check first thing in the morning to make sure you are on top of all of your work for the day and week ahead. To access My Work, let's go to the checklist icon on the left panel to open it. So it's just here, My Work. Let's give it a second. Here we go. So as you can see, the items that appear are items that were assigned to me or that I assigned to myself. They are organized into 5 chronological sections: past date, today, this week, later, and without a date. There is a number next to each section indicating how many items there are, and it will sort items in each section by most recently assigned from newest to oldest. Do note that the order cannot be changed at this time. So in order for items to appear in My Work, you need to make sure that there is a people column on the board and that you are assigned to the items. So here we see the people column. This is a different people column for each of these boards, and you need to be assigned to them. Otherwise, the items will not appear as it works. And if I complete an item but don't want to see it in my work, I can click the Hide Done Items up here in the Hide Done Items option. So you see that clears quite a lot of items from my work feature. Okay, now where my work really shines is in its customization capabilities. If I click on the Customize button up here, I'll see a customization pop up on the right, as you can see. So let's say I want to see what items my teammate has been assigned to or what multiple people are working on. If I search for their names and follow them, I'll be able to see all of the items they're assigned to in my work. So let's just go ahead with Dan. I have a dummy user called Dummy Dan. Or let's just go with Daniela. That's another option. And also let's add Dan. And shortly, you'll be able to see that I have also here items assigned to them, in addition to items assigned to me. Okay, so I can take it a step further and filter the boards by selecting, deselecting, or hiding boards so that I only see the tasks I want to see. You can even see if the boards are main, private, or shareable. So if I go to boards over here, I can scroll, and if it's, for example, a shareable board, I'll have the logo over here suggesting it so I know exactly what I'm seeing. And as you can see now, I filtered it so I can see other users as well, and not only mine. And as a manager, that's something worth doing. Okay. So now for some updates. Do note the following are being gradually released. So if you do not yet see the changes on your account, they will be released to your account soon. So first up, my work now not only fetches items updated in the last 4 months, but also items with relevant date columns. This will help to show items that were not shown before. Next, we have added the ability for viewers on your account to customize my work, which was not possible before. And we've also expanded all sections upon searching. Before, when you search for an item in the search box, the items that were collapsed didn't expand. So if I search for tasks, let's unhide these tasks, and I see now all the items clearly and easily. And finally, we have published a new troubleshooting article to help users get set for success with my work. This is not something new, the article is, but our search center over here is not new. And I strongly recommend searching anything and everything you're looking for right here. So we can simply write my work and we'll see this new article, the existing article, my work for mobile, and more. So this is something worth knowing about. Okay, so now before we finish the webinar with our featured app, I want to shift our focus to the mobile app and some major improvements there. So for those of you who aren't familiar, monday.com has a mobile app for both iOS and Android, so you can keep up to date on the go. To start off, we've revamped our color keys in the iOS and Android app. What this means in the new sleek dark theme with resolved consistency and contrast issues. This new theme is paving the way for some exciting developments in our future designs. The reason behind this revamp was to implement new contextual colors that have a systematic approach and improve UI at scale. Next, we're excited to announce some new major features being gradually released to our mobile app. As we become more and more reliant on our phones to store files, we're happy to introduce a feature that will allow you to scan text from PDFs or images directly to an item update. Using optical character recognition, text can be added to the update section simply by placing the camera over a picture or existing image in your device's photo gallery, which is incredible. Another exciting release is one which will allow our Android users the ability to track their location directly from the location column. Users will be able to mark a location column value as track my location, which will then automatically update that value. We know a number of our users rely heavily on location-based services to fulfill their business needs, so we anticipate this will hugely benefit our users. An additional Android feature that we are happy to showcase is the new shortcut process for boards, docs, and dashboards. We understand how critical it is to be able to efficiently access data within your account, especially off your mobile device. That's why this new release allows for quick access to your recent entities, for example, docs, boards, dashboards, on the Android app by long pressing the app icon or by searching from the phone search bar. Finally, we want to draw your attention to our new file upload functionality similarly on the Android platform. In an attempt to improve the experience of interacting with photos within the mobile app, you can now upload files from your camera and gallery directly through the Files column. So we want to draw our attention to our, so we would love to hear your feedback on this new feature as you begin testing it out. And in general, just like I mentioned, we do appreciate any and all feedback from our users because it really helps us with our continuous efforts to improve the platform as much as possible based on our users' needs. So moving on, if you haven't heard, Monday now has an apps marketplace. So let's just go back to the platform. And this is where you can power up your workflows with third-party apps that extend the functionality of the platform even further. We are constantly adding more and more apps to the marketplace, so we really encourage you to check out what's there on a frequent basis. You can find this via the three-dot menu over here. If you missed it, just here, and click on it, and there, you'll be able to find all sorts of different apps assisting you with business needs and workflows that may not be supported with the native current features. So each month, we'd like to highlight an app that we think our users will find useful in their workflows. This month's app of the month is Figma Embedded, which is most relevant for designers and developers. So let's just go ahead and find Figma. Here we go. With the Figma Embedded app, you can embed your designs right into your item view, board view, or dashboard view. Now you can easily keep designers, developers, and the rest of your team in sync. So unlike sharing screenshots and exports, the app will embed a live version of your design, which updates in real time to reflect changes made in the Figma file, no manual updates required. If this app isn't particularly interesting for you, but you want to see what else is on offer, I highly recommend checking the marketplace out and the different amazing apps which are available there. So just one minor example would be the timeline, the start and end timeline. So you have two date columns and you want them to automatically populate as a timeline. This app allows it. So as you understand, there are a lot of amazing options, all depending on what you'd like to achieve. Okay, so this completes the new features part of our session, and we'll be moving into the Q&A shortly. Let's just go back to here. I'm just going to grab a quick sip of water and then jump right in. That's been a lot of talking. There's a lot of you here, been 1,700 participants, which is just incredible. I'm going to take 1 minute for a sip of water. I know Omri and Aviaz have been answering your questions already, and then we'll move on to answer publicly.